Hey, this is Bradley. I'm Chrissy's husband, and I just wanted to make this quick video because I think it's really important to have the guy's perspective, because sometimes you can feel like a bit of a spare part during the process, because obviously it's your wife or partner that's growing the baby and going to be giving birth. But I just wanted to give you a few insights about my experience over 5 different births alongside Chrissi, and just how magical it can be, but also some of the things you want to avoid doing, because you don't want to be pissing your wife off at any point when she's very emotionally charged. So first of all, there's two kinds of support in my mind. One is the practical side, and then there's obviously the emotional side. So let's just cover off on some of the practical stuff first of all. So obviously in the early stages of pregnancy, when maybe she's feeling nauseous and that kind of stuff, then you're going to need to pick up the slack, whether that's cooking or cleaning or running errands, all that kind of stuff. It might be that you've got to step up a little bit there. That's kind of a given, yeah. But some men need reminders, myself included. But also there's the financial side, yeah, because there's various costs along the way of having a baby. For the lifetime of the child, obviously there's a whole new realm of things that you're going to be buying and investing in for your child. But it kind of starts the minute you conceive, and from the practical point of view, I think you really need to be there for your wife in terms of, wife or partner, in terms of just giving her what she needs to feel supported from a practical point of view. So whether that's investing in education materials, or if she wants to work with a doula, is really important. Now, I've got a really good friend of mine who kind of felt like a doula was a threat to his ego, if you like, because when we suggested getting one, he's like, I don't need that, I can be there for her, I can do all those things. And that's just simply not the case. A man is only as good as the more practical stuff. You're never going to be able to replace another woman supporting a woman on an emotional level. No matter how close you are as partners, that level of support when your wife or your partner is giving birth, and being able to look another woman in the eyes and ask her, is this okay, is something you're never going to be able to do, because you physically cannot give birth and you're going to have no experience of that yourself. So that emotional kind of connection that woman to woman gets is something you've just got to step back and take your ego out of it, and just I cannot recommend highly enough getting yourself a doula. Whether you're having a hospital birth or a home birth, it doesn't matter. We had our first in hospital with a doula, and she was amazing. Okay, and they'll just do things that you can't even imagine as a guy. Okay, so just wanted to get that out there. Also, if there's like a financial block of like, okay, can we really afford this? Then if there's a way you can make it happen, if you've got questions around affordability, then if you really want something, then you'll find a way. And I think you have to understand how much you need this, okay? Because you don't want the experience ruined. And going back to my friend who kind of said, no, we don't need a doula. They end up in hospital. His wife had an absolutely horrific birth experience, like absolutely torn to shreds, needed a follow-up operation to fix her pelvic floor, and it all roots back to not having another female who's had experience there, because it was their first baby. They were completely naive, and they ended up getting caught up in a load of hospital protocols that ended up in this disaster. And had they had a doula, the chances are none of that would have happened, because she would have been able to defend his wife and help them make more informed decisions. Okay, so that's kind of all the practical stuff. And from an emotional point of view, then it always reminds me of this. There's a YouTube video out there, you can look it up yourself, but it's quite funny, but there's a woman who's she's got a nail sticking out her head, and she's just going on about how she's not feeling good, she's got a headache, and the guy is doing his best to point out to her that she's got a nail in her head, and if she just takes it out, it'll solve all her problems, because that's what guys want to do, yeah? They want to give practical advice. But sometimes a woman just wants empathy, or most of the time. And there's no more kind of poignant time for this when a woman is pregnant, because obviously she's much more emotionally charged with all the hormones coursing through her body, and you're going to get your head bitten off if you say the wrong thing. I've made this mistake many a time, so I just want to give you that little pointer. So from an emotional point of view, you've just got to be empathetic. You really have to understand that, because there's literally nothing you can solve on a practical level. When it comes to, like, my back hurts, or I need a foot rub, yes, you can do that. Or I'm feeling sick, I can't sleep, I've got restless legs, all these kind of things. You've just got to empathise. That's the best you can do. Okay. And obviously, if they want a foot rub or a back massage, then you step in. That's a nice practical thing you can do. But again, from an emotional point of view, I think one of the biggest things not to do is to project your own fears onto your wife or partner, because this can be so damaging. Again, a good friend of ours, we saw him at Christmas just before their baby was born, and he sort of pulled me to one side because he was absolutely petrified about what was going to happen to his wife during the birth process, and he'd been projecting all this stuff onto her as well. And luckily, she was quite resilient and didn't take too much of it to heart. But I was just like, dude, you just got to shut up, because you're just gonna, send her into an absolute tailspin of fear and worry, which is the last thing she needs. Who's worried about her tearing, or not to be crude, but ending up really baggy after the birth and ruining their sex life and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, dude, you don't need to worry about that. If she has a natural birth, chances are she won't tear, and also the anatomy is pretty good at kind of bouncing back. So we've never had a problem with that after 5 babies, because all the stuff Chrissi goes through in the course is going to help prevent all of that. And we relayed that information to them, and it all worked out fine. They had an amazing home birth. But the point was, he was projecting all these fears onto her, and it's just not a good thing to do. Like, go and have a chat with your mates privately if you've got concerns, and voice it there. But you never ever want to project your fears onto your wife, because she's going to have fears of her own, and you need to be there as an emotional rock for her. You don't want to join in on it. You want to kind of absorb it and try your best to make it feel better. Okay, so those fears, take them elsewhere. Talk to some other male that's had experience or is a good listener, and deal with it that way. So like I was saying, like, being empathetic and being a rock is so important, and that's really your main role. And when it comes to the actual birth, if you've got a doula there, they're going to help take some of that slack up for you as well. But you need to just listen and be calm and be present with your wife or partner, because that's the best you can do, right? You can't give birth for them. You can't take away the pain for them if they're in any discomfort. You just got to be there emotionally. But one of the most important practical things you can do during the birth is to be a shield. And what I mean by that is, especially if you end up in hospital, there's so many things that can be going on that can affect your wife's emotional state. And if her emotional state's affected negatively, then the knock-on effect of that, because of the mind-body-baby connection, could mean that she starts tensing up, and then it slows down labour, and everything becomes prolonged and more uncomfortable than it needs to be. So you need to be a shield to protect her from unnecessary interventions, right? So you need to educate yourself as well as to what all these things can be, because like with our first birth, we ended up in hospital because I span out. Chrissi had meconium in her water when she had a bath, and meconium is the poo that the baby releases during the labour process sometimes. And Chrissi wasn't fazed by it because she was kind of genned up on this stuff already, whereas I was like ringing the midwife going, what should we do? And she's like, let's go into hospital. Chrissi's like, no, I don't want to go. Please don't tell her, we'll just carry on as we are. And it changed the course of the whole birth, me projecting my panic and my fear. But it all turned out right in the end, but we could have just had a home birth and not gone into hospital at all. But so you need to educate yourself on what the hospital protocols are, or even what the midwife's protocols are, so that you can prevent your wife from becoming stressed, because stress and fear will cause the birthing process to slow down and sometimes halt entirely, and that's when hospitals usually try and do unnecessary interventions. So that's one of your main jobs, okay? So, you know, if your wife has been following Chrissi's stuff and, you know, she's wanting to buy the course or whatever, it's a good idea for you to go through it as well, because you really, really need to understand stuff to support your wife or your partner from an emotional and practical point of view. Even silly little things like when they're giving birth, they become hypersensitive to noise, light, sound, smells. All the senses are heightened, basically. And Chrissi just cannot bear the smell of coffee on anyone's breath, you know. And you know, if you're in a hospital situation or even at home, if someone's a coffee drinker, you know, that smell makes Chrissi feel nauseous. So one of my jobs was just to make sure everyone knew that, and to politely ask them to go and drink some water or whatever, not drink coffee during the birth process, because that's your job, the practical kind of stuff. And if you're having a birthing pool at home, filling it up, keeping the temperature to the correct temperature, all that kind of stuff. So I think I've covered everything on my little list here, but I hope that gives you a good kind of overview of all the things you need to think about and be doing, and especially stuff not to do, because you don't want to mess this up. It's a magical experience, and you're in it together, and you need to support each other the best way you can. So I hope that helps. A couple of things I forgot to add was, on the day of the birth, you're going to be quite busy. I know you probably think like it's the mama that's going to be doing all the work, which of course she's doing the hardest job, but you're not just going to be sitting around playing on your phone. You're going to be setting everything up. If you're doing a birthing pool, I'd definitely recommend doing a dry run with that first, to make sure you don't run into any complications, like you haven't got the right adapter for your water supply and that kind of stuff. But just a quick example of some of the things I've had to get involved in with our births. Essential oils, they're really key for helping to relax the mama. Having the right music, like even just getting a playlist prepared in advance, that kind of thing, because again, like I said earlier, there's the hypersensitivity to everything. Certain music's just going to piss them off, whereas other stuff's just going to chill them out. So you've got to make sure you've got the right kind of music. Said earlier about the temperature in the pool, and if you've already got other kids, just getting them out of the picture. If we had every intention of having our kids at some of our home births, but the reality is they're just too stressful. We love them to death, but they're just full on, and you know, in that kind of situation, it's not what you want. You want them close by so they can be brought back to you once the baby's born, or maybe even in the very last throes of things. But just the mothering instinct of looking out for them and hearing that, you know, if one of them falls over and hurts themselves, creates a reaction in the mama, and that's going to slow down the birthing process. So you really need to make sure they're out of the way. What else? Yeah, and just the financial side of things. Again, you know, there's probably going to be a whole laundry list of things that you know, I don't know how your finances work between you, whether it's very much a joint thing, or you know, you're the breadwinner and you know, the gatekeeper at times. But you know, it might be that, you know, you need to buy a birthing pool, buy a hypnobirthing course. In the UK, it's called NCT. It's like prenatal classes, books, you know, documentaries, all that kind of stuff, and even Chrissi's course. You believe me, you don't want to be blocking that, because if you don't have the birth outcome that you want, those things are going to get thrown back in your face. Because there's been stuff at times where I've objected to, like, oh, I'm not paying for a videographer. I can you know, I can do the filming, and I did do, and then I lost the video, which I've never ever been forgiven for our third son's birth. So This is just general relationship advice in some ways, but you just don't want to do anything that's going to come back and haunt you and get brought up at every given opportunity, because just because you've been tight. So it's really, really important that you support your wife or your partner in those ways that, and if you say, oh, we can't afford it, believe me, there's a ton of things that you're probably going to think you need to buy for your baby in terms of just, I don't know, like all the usual equipment and paraphernalia that new parents get suckered into buying that you never use. Is literally, you need a crib, a stroller, and boobs. All this other stuff like the sterilisation equipment and all that rubbish is just all fear-based marketing. So bring a new parent, there's a lot of weird new stuff that you're just going into a whole realm that you've never understood before, and you're on a crash course. And so don't get suckered into buying this stuff and spending your money in the wrong places, is what I'm really trying to say. Whether it's Chrissy's course or another course, just make sure you give your partner that support that she feels she needs, because it's so important. And I cannot tell you, even if you were just being completely selfish from your own standpoint, particularly in Chrissy's course, I don't know about other people's courses, but there's secrets in there that will guarantee you're still having sex after your baby's born, and you're not going to get sleepless nights. Because I can say, hand on heart, out of 5 babies, I've probably lost less than a week's sleep, as in just the nights, not the total hours over a week, but 7 nights of sleep out of 5 babies in 10.5 years, because we're doing all the right things. There's not, there's no magical secret to all this stuff. It's just common sense and getting back to nature. And all these kind of man-made interferences have just fucked it up, basically, and made everyone's lives so much harder than they need to be. And Chrissi, she knows all this stuff. And, again, not to be crude, we were, our sex life was back on within days of all of the births. There was none of this like, waiting around, I'm feeling like I don't want you to go near me, all this kind of stuff. So even if, I hope you're not, but even if you're the most selfish arsehole in the world and you just want to think about yourself and all of this, then those 2 things alone, not having to have sleepless nights and not having to suffer with lack of sex, are 2 massive reasons to buy a course alone, okay? Because she'll eradicate that risk for you. But I'm hoping that you're a really supportive guy, and you want to do all this stuff to really be there for your wife or partner. So hope that helps, and best of luck with the baby.